Papua New Guinea is the most linguistically diverse country in the entire world. There are more languages in Papua New Guinea than in any other country in the world. It's home to 12% of the world's languages. Papua New Guinea has about 840 languages. However, its population is only 10 million, which means that Papua New Guinea's total population is only about 0.1% of the entire world's population. How is this possible? Why does this small island nation in Oceania have such incredible linguistic diversity? What is the deal? There are at least 18 unrelated language families, along with several languages that are isolates and not related to any other known language in the entire world. These languages include indigenous languages, colonial languages, Creole languages, and sign languages, all of which are in active use today. And each of these languages has somewhere between maybe just a few dozen people to millions of speakers. What are the reasons for this? First, interesting geographical terrain appears to have played a very important role in the maintenance of this linguistic diversity. The rugged mountains, thick jungles, and lowland swamps make it really hard for people to travel across this country and have for millennia. And the impact of those is that people have generally remained pretty separated from each other within their small communities. That's aided in the development of separate languages and also helps to maintain them today. In addition, Papua New Guinea is the most rural country in the entire world. There are only 13.5% of the entire population that actually lives in a town, which means people generally have less reason to interact with as many people as they otherwise would. Those languages that people speak across the country come from a variety of different places. The first languages that probably arrived on the island are the Papuan languages. Indigenous languages like the Papuan languages probably arrived on the island around 40,000 years ago. They came with the first humans to inhabit the island and have stayed there ever since. The largest language family within this group is the Trans-New Guinea group, which probably has somewhere between around 300 to 500 different languages, plus a variety of discrete and different dialects. These languages are spread across the island of New Guinea, not just in Papua New Guinea, but also in the rest of the island. And they're highlighted here on this map in blue. There are also a variety of Austronesian languages, which probably arrived on the island around 3,500 years ago. And those are related to a number of different languages spread across the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. For example, Tagalog, Indonesian, Hawaiian, Malagasy, and some non-Chinese native Taiwanese languages. Another reason that Papua New Guinea probably has more of this linguistic diversity is that it's one of the least developed countries in the world. Less developed countries tend to be more linguistically diverse than more developed countries. Papua New Guinea is ranked number 156 out of 191 countries that the UN lists in their Human Development Index. It is mostly only ranked higher than sub-Saharan African countries, which notably are also countries that have a lot of linguistic diversity, although frankly none really hold a candle to the linguistic diversity of Papua New Guinea. Another important factor that has led to such linguistic diversity is the unique colonial history. So like most other countries in the world, Papua New Guinea was colonized by European powers over the past several hundred years, but they had a variety of occupying forces, and their colonization really didn't last as long as colonization in some other places. So Papua New Guinea was colonized by the Dutch, the English, the German, the Japanese, and the Australian, all within the 20th century. So while Papua New Guinea was a colony for around 100 years, it was a much shorter period of time than many of the other colonies that lasted around the world. For example, many places in Latin America were colonies for around 400 years, which just left a lot more time for the colonial power, Spain and Portugal mostly, to assert their dominance and help to eradicate native languages and influence the speakers of that area to speak that one colonial language like Spanish or Portuguese, which today are the dominant languages of South America. This is really important because in modern history, colonialism has been one of the main reasons for languages to die off. Colonial powers have historically killed so many indigenous people that entire subgroups and languages have just been completely obliterated. And of course, colonial powers often have also asserted the dominance of their own language in education and trade and encouraged or forced speakers of indigenous languages to drop their own languages and switch to speaking primarily colonial languages. Whereas linguistic diversity is a bit more limited in places like the Americas or even to a slightly lesser extent Africa, this is less so the case in Papua New Guinea. Another impact of colonialism is that there are a number of creoles that are mixes of both colonial languages and native Papuan languages that have developed over the course of the past 200 or so years as European powers have come and begun to interact with native Papuan people. Tok Pisin is spoken by about 4 million people, so it's one of the most spoken languages in the country. It's a Creole language that is primarily based on English, but also has some German influences along with a number of influences from Papuan languages. It started as a pidgin language used by traders in the early 19th century, and developed a standardized grammar as people began to use it more. And its name actually comes from the phrase talk pidgin. There are also a variety of colonial languages that are spoken, but the main one of those is English. So about half the country is literate in English and then more speak it. Oh, I couldn't find an exact statistic about that. When Papua New Guinea became independent in 1975, English, Hiromotu, and Tok Pisin were declared the 3 official languages of Papua New Guinea, and then Papuan Sign Language was then added later to be the 4th official language of the country. Interestingly, one of the newest languages in Papua New Guinea is Papuan Sign Language, which actually only came to Papua New Guinea in 1990 and is an offshoot of Australian Sign Language. And Australian Sign Language, interestingly, is an offshoot of British Sign Language. However, Papuan Sign Language now only has about 50% mutual intelligibility with Australian Sign Language. So in just 30 years, it's really evolved a lot and has been very influenced by things like home signs, which are signs that people make up in their own homes. You can see there are a lot of reasons for linguistic diversity to exist in Papua New Guinea. However, there have generally been some fears of languages dying out, and then there has been a drop-off of ability by Papuan students compared to the abilities of their parents and grandparents. Unsurprisingly, that language attrition was accompanied by less knowledge about things like nature and their original community's culture. It is predicted that this trend will continue and that future generations will likely be even less capable on average in a lot of these native languages. There has been some pushback on this. About 88% of Papuan people surveyed did want to teach their children their native languages, and there's been some pushback in schooling to allow the early years of education, so mainly primary school and also some preschool, to be done in native languages before schooling is then switched to English, which is what it has been for the past decades, and also what it currently and probably will continue to be in secondary school and university. There has been on record students in official schools in Papua New Guinea speaking 392 of the languages in Papua New Guinea, which is a little bit less than half of the languages. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, check out some of my others. I have a lot of videos about languages and linguistics and language learning. Have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye!